Hi guys, welcome back. It's Mr. Malev with Mr. Malev Teaches. Today we are going to be doing another 3-part art project. We're going to first learn how to draw something like a tube of hand sanitizer, something that you probably had your fair share of in the last 5 months. Then we're going to talk about a painting that has a special, deeper meaning behind it. And we're going to be learning about space and doing an outer space project. But first, check out this funny crab meme.
Right? Because they walk sideways, get it? As always, when I do a sketch, it's a good idea to do a couple practice motions before you make a mark. You'll oftentimes see my pencil move 2 or 3 times before the pencil makes a mark on the page. You can't see my eyes right now, but they're constantly looking back and forth from the object in front of me to my paper. I want to make sure that the connection between my eyes and my brain, where my eyes are sending my brain messages, matches the messages my brain has sent down to the muscles around my hand. I started with the basic shapes, the main oval, and I pressed soft at first because even experienced artists do not make the perfect line the first time. So if you make a soft line, you could erase it no problem. Now I'm starting to darken down the lines. I'm starting to add specific details that I see in front of me. I want to make sure that the lines look crisp and straight at this point. Now that I have the main lines drawn out, I'll start to add the shadows. And when you're dealing with a see-through object, those can get a little bit tricky. You have to train your eyes to look carefully at which things are darker and lighter, even things that are translucent that you could see right through the clear plastic. Making a shadowy, hard edge right next to a brighter spot makes it look three-dimensional. I can use my finger as a tool. You saw me smearing it to make a smooth shadow. You could use your eraser as a drawing tool. You saw me erase a few marks to make the highlights. And now for some darker shadows and finishing touches. This painting by Emanuel Lutz is probably one of the top 3 most famous American paintings. It shows George Washington crossing the Delaware on his way to defeat the British. But there's a few odd things. The artist who painted it wasn't American, he was German, and he painted it 75 years after George Washington. Also, the artist changed a few things. George Washington would never stand up, and he's in a tinier boat. What meaning does putting him in a smaller boat have? And what meaning would this scene have for a German citizen?
All right, let's talk about outer space. This past weekend, I was at Brown County State Park, and I was camping out. And when I looked up at the stars, there were so many of them. I don't get to see them that much when I'm in the Indianapolis area because there's so many lights around. But if you get a chance to go out in the country or out someplace without any human lights, take a look at those stars. It will astound you. Let me show you a few things to show you how big space actually is.
You can see how big Earth is. It is larger than Venus, 5 times larger than Mars, way bigger than Mercury, and far bigger than Pluto. But if you compare Earth to some of the larger gas giants like Jupiter or Saturn or Uranus or Neptune, you could see how minuscule it actually is. There's a storm on Jupiter that's bigger than the Earth. But let's compare them all to the Sun. The Earth is just a pin drop compared to the Sun, and the Sun is a star. If you compare the Sun to some of the other stars like Sirius or Aldebaran, it is tiny. There are billions of stars in the sky. Each one has their own solar system. Now to make this project, I'll take a black piece of paper, and the first thing I'll do is take some crayons and lightly shade in some colorful gas clouds. Oftentimes in outer space, you'd see a lot of beautiful, colorful gas clouds, and it makes a more interesting background. The next thing I'm going to do is get some white paint and a thickly bristled brush and flick my finger, making stars. The more you do, the better. If you don't have a brush at home, you could use an old toothbrush. That works too. Some should be bigger, some should be smaller. Now I'm going to take the back of my brush and tap it carefully to make constellations. Constellations are pictures that the stars form in the sky. The Big Dipper, Orion's Belt, those are the most common. Now I'm going to take a clean finger and I'm going to make a dab of paint and swoosh it across the page. That's going to be a shooting star. A shooting star is actually a meteorite. The next step is, on a separate sheet of paper, I want you to draw all the different planets. Mercury is gray. Notice I'm putting a shadow on one side of it to make it three-dimensional. Venus is a yellowish green because of its ammonia gas clouds. The Earth has spots of blue for the water, spots of green for the land, and then places that are still white from the ice or storm clouds overhead. The next planet in our solar system is Mars. It's called the red planet because of its reddish-orange rocks that it's covered. The next one is Jupiter. It is a gas giant. It's covered in layers and layers of gas, including that superstorm that I mentioned as well. I believe that the exact figure is 5,000 Earths could fit into Jupiter. The next planet in our solar system is Saturn. It's covered mostly in that same ammonia gas as Venus, and it has that blue ring that's made out of frozen ice and rocks. The next two planets are Uranus and Neptune. Both of them are covered in nitrogen gas, so that gives them the deep blue color. And then finally, you have little dwarf planet Pluto, a frozen ball of dirt and rock that's kind of brownish black. I'm going to cut them out. I'm going to try to cut them out as round as I can, and then arrange them onto my star background, being careful not to just line them up, but to put them in an interesting arrangement. Let's see you do a space project as well.